Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today I continue to bring you another video about the story of Tusan. After the first days of the new year passed with so many busy tasks and everyday worries, Tusan finally had a truly memorable trip with Hoai. It was not simply a journey to change the atmosphere, but also a precious period of time that allowed her to temporarily set aside the burdens of life and enjoy a rare sense of peace. When the car slowly stopped in front of the familiar gate of her house, Tusan stepped out looking somewhat tired after the long journey. There was still a trace of fatigue on her face from the trip back, but her eyes shone with joy and relief. For her, that journey felt like a gentle pause after a series of busy days. The majestic scenery of the mountains, the fresh air of the highlands, and the simple yet meaningful moments had made her feel much lighter and calmer. Throughout the journey home, Tusan turned to thank Hoai more than once. She knew that this trip was not just a spontaneous plan, but something that had been carefully prepared with quiet care behind the scenes. Hoai not only took her to the most beautiful places in Sapa, but he had also thoughtfully arranged everything at home beforehand. He hired someone to help take care of the house, look after the farm, and feed the chickens every day so that Tusan could leave for a few days without worrying. Those seemingly small things made her feel even more clearly the warmth and care that Hoai always gave her. After returning home, Tusan began to organize her luggage. She carefully folded each set of clothes and put away the items she had brought on the trip. When everything was neatly arranged, she sat down on the familiar chair and opened her phone to look back at the photos taken throughout the journey. Each picture appearing on the screen brought back a clear memory of those moments. Some photos captured the scenery of Sapa in the early morning, when a thin layer of mist still covered the mountain slopes. Others were taken at Cat Village, with small winding roads along the hillsides and simple wooden houses nestled quietly in nature. There were also moments from the cable car ride up to Fansipan, when Tusan looked down at the vast valleys below and truly felt the grandeur of the Northwest Mountains. What Tusan remembered most vividly was the time when the group wore traditional ethnic costumes to take photos among the lush green mountains. In those pictures, her smile looked so natural and radiant. It was not just the joy of a trip, but also the feeling of slowing down and enjoying simple moments that she rarely had time to experience before. As she looked back at those photos, Tusan smiled softly. To her, this journey was more than just a travel experience. It felt like a small milestone in her life, when she realized that everything around her was gradually changing for the better. The worry she once had seemed to fade away, making room for a sense of peace and hope for the new path ahead. While Tusan was quietly reminiscing about her trip, in another home, the family of Toan and Trang had also just returned after spending a few days visiting Trang's parents. The atmosphere in their house suddenly became livelier. The sound of footsteps moving around, children's cheerful chatter, and familiar greetings filled the once quiet home with warmth and life. Trang's mother-in-law looked at her daughter-in-law and grandchild with loving eyes. She felt happy because after several days away, the whole family could sit together again. For her, the simplest happiness was seeing her children and grandchildren gathered together, sharing meals and conversations in a warm and friendly atmosphere. She gently asked about their trip, Trang's work, and their plans for the coming time. During the conversation, she also mentioned organizing the wedding in a way that would make both families happy and satisfied. Not stopping there, she even thought about advising Trang to move her spa shop closer to home, so it would be easier to take care of the child and avoid the daily burden of traveling far. Her words did not carry any sense of pressure. Everything came from the concern and wishes of a mother who always thought about her children. She simply hoped that they could live closer to each other, support and care for one another so that life would become less difficult. As Toan sat there listening to his mother, many thoughts crossed his mind. He clearly understood that everything she said came from sincere care. But he also knew that every decision in life came with its own calculations and responsibilities. Work, finances, and future plans all required careful consideration. At that moment, Toan was also quietly nurturing a plan of his own. He wanted to switch to a new pickup truck to make his work more convenient. That vehicle would not only help him transport passengers and travel more easily, but it could also open up new opportunities for business, allowing him to earn more income and build a stable life in the long run. Even though he knew the cost of buying a new truck would be significant, and he understood that his mother might worry about loans or debts, Toan still wanted to try with his own efforts. He believed that with hard work and determination, every difficulty could eventually be overcome. What he wanted most was to build a stable life for his small family without making his mother worry any further. Toan's story is much like many other stories in every family. Sometimes love is not only expressed through gentle words, but also through the silent efforts of each person. It is the determination to protect the family, to build a shared future, and to ensure that loved ones can feel secure when they are together. And from these simple yet meaningful moments, the next chapters of their lives are slowly unfolding on the road ahead. Meanwhile, after resting for a while and letting her body slowly adjust back to the rhythm of everyday life, Tusan gently walked out to the familiar farm behind the house. The space there was still quiet and comforting, just as it had always been. The rows of trees, the corners of the garden, the chicken coop, and the small path running through the soil beds all retained their familiar appearance. Tusan slowly walked around the yard, observing each small corner that she had been attached to for such a long time. She stopped beside the chicken coop, watching the chickens scratching the ground in search of food. Occasionally, a few of them let out their familiar clucks, making the farm feel lively and full of life. Tusan bent down to collect the newly laid eggs that were still warm in the straw nest, gently placing them into the small basket she had brought along. These simple tasks had long become a natural part of her daily routine. After walking around the garden, Tusan realized that everything was still clean and well organized. The paths had been swept, the chicken coop had been carefully maintained, and the garden showed no sign of being neglected. Seeing this scene, she understood that during the days she had been away, everything had been taken care of exactly as Hai had promised. In that moment, a deep sense of gratitude quietly rose in her heart. Sometimes in life there are small acts of care that we rarely notice. Only when we leave for a while and return do we truly realize the value of those simple things. That afternoon passed rather slowly. The gentle sunlight of the late day softly spread across the garden, making the atmosphere more peaceful than ever. After finishing the small chores around the farm, Tusan went back into the house. She sat quietly beside the familiar wooden table where she often rested in the afternoons or wrote down the events of the day. Tusan opened the drawer and took out the small notebook she used as her diary. That notebook had been with her for a long time, holding many memories of her life. She slowly flipped through a few previous pages before picking up her pen and beginning to write new lines. In that diary, Tusan wrote about her first trip with Hai. She wrote about the joy of leaving behind her familiar work for a while to travel to a completely different place. She wrote about the beautiful landscape she had witnessed in Sapa, about the winding roads in the village, the cool air of the mountain region, and the excitement of standing in the middle of the vast natural scenery. Not only did she write about the landscapes, but Tusan also recorded her feelings throughout the trip. It was the sense of peace she felt when being with someone who always cared for her. It was the simple moments when the two of them walked together, admired the scenery, and shared small stories about life. For Tusan, that journey was like a small but unforgettable milestone in her life. In the final lines of the diary page, Tusan also wrote about the hope she began to nurture for the year 2026. She told herself that she needed to try harder. She wanted to learn a new skill, improve herself, and live better every day. In her thoughts, all those efforts were not only for herself, but also a way to live up to the love and trust of the people who cared about her. The diary page ended on a quiet afternoon. At that moment, Tusan still believed that after such a memorable trip, her life would probably continue peacefully as it always had. The work at the farm, the simple days, and the small plans for the future might slowly unfold in the most natural way. But life is never just one color. Sometimes things happen unexpectedly, so suddenly that no one has time to prepare. When she thought of Ivy, Tusan suddenly realized that she had been away from the little girl for several days. The longing for her daughter made her hesitate no longer. She immediately went to Madame Yen's place to bring Ivy home. At that moment, Tusan had only one simple thought. After several days apart, Ivy must also be longing to see her mother again. However, when she arrived, the scene before her was completely different from what she had imagined. The house where Madame Yen used to live was now tightly closed and silent. There were no familiar signs of daily life. No voices, no lights, and no indication that anyone was still living there. Tusan knocked on the door several times, but no one answered. She tried calling Madame Yen, but every call failed to connect. Anxiety slowly began to rise in her heart. She stood silently in front of the closed door, the uneasy feeling becoming clearer and stronger. After a while, a neighbor happened to pass by and noticed Tusan standing there. The person slowly explained that Madame Yen had moved away quite some time ago. No one knew where she had gone. Some people even said that Madame Yen had borrowed money from several people in the area and suddenly left without telling anyone. Those words made Tusan freeze in shock. In her mind, only one question remained. Where was Ivy? Her heart tightened at the thought that her daughter might no longer be in the place she believed was safe. In just a single day, from the joy of a memorable trip, Tusan suddenly fell into a void filled with worry and confusion. The feeling of anxiety almost made her unable to stand steadily. All the thoughts in her mind became tangled as she tried to understand what was happening. Yet at that very moment, one truth about life became very clear. Life is always a mixture of happy days and unexpected challenges. There are days that seem peaceful, but in just a moment, storms can appear without warning. What truly matters is not how many hardships life brings. What matters is whether there is someone beside us when those hardships arrive. And for Tusan, the story ahead seemed to have just entered a completely different chapter. The story of Tusan, Toan and Trang therefore is not simply a collection of small fragments from everyday life. Each person and each circumstance in the story carries genuine emotions and very real thoughts. Much like countless families who are moving forward each day while facing the worries and responsibilities of life. Looking back at everything that has happened, it becomes clear that behind every action and every decision they make lies a common foundation. Family love, care, and the desire to protect the happiness of their loved ones. Tusan is someone who always tries to live sincerely and simply. Her life is closely connected to the small farm, to the familiar tasks she performs each day, and to the modest dreams she holds for the future. The recent trip to Sapa was not just an ordinary journey for her. It was also a moment that allowed her to reflect on herself. She realized that in life, the things that bring people the greatest happiness are not always the grand or extraordinary ones. Sometimes having someone who truly cares, or having peaceful moments to rest and reflect, is already enough to make life feel far more meaningful. Hai, with his calm and thoughtful nature, is also an important part of that story. The things he quietly did for Tusan, from arranging the trip to hiring someone to take care of the farm while she was away, might seem small to many people. Yet it is precisely those small actions that clearly show his care and sense of responsibility. Sometimes affection does not need to be expressed through overly beautiful words. Genuine concern and being present at the right moment are enough for someone to feel warmth and reassurance. In another part of the story, the lives of Toan and Trang bring reflections that feel very close to reality. They are young people who are gradually building their own life together. Each passing day is connected with decisions about work, finances, and the future of their small family. The conversations between Toan's mother and the younger couple, the advice offered and the personal thoughts each person carries, all reflect something very familiar in many families. Concern often comes hand in hand with worry. Toan's mother hopes that her children can live close to one another, so they can support and care for each other more easily. Toan, on the other hand, is trying to expand his work in order to create a more stable life. Trang must balance caring for the family, while also thinking about her own work. All of these situations show that within every family, each person carries their own worries and responsibilities. Yet even when their perspectives differ, their ultimate goal remains the same. They all wish for peace and happiness within their family. For that reason, the story of Tusan, Toan and Trang is not merely about events that happen in daily life. It is also a story about how people face their choices, and how each person tries to protect the most precious things within their family. It is about the bond between relatives, the sharing between people who live under the same roof, and the responsibilities that each person willingly takes on in order to safeguard their collective happiness. Life is not always smooth and predictable. Sometimes people must face unexpected challenges, and sometimes things happen beyond anyone's anticipation. Yet it is precisely during those moments that people begin to recognize the true value of family love. When someone is there beside you to encourage, support, and face difficulties together, even the hardest challenges begin to feel lighter. Perhaps the most beautiful meaning this story wishes to convey lies exactly in that truth. In life, everyone has their own dreams, plans, and worries. But if there are still people beside us who love us, if there are still hands ready to hold ours when we feel tired, then the road ahead, no matter how difficult, no longer feels so frightening. As long as there is faith to keep moving forward and love to lean on, people can always find their own light. And it is those small lights that guide them through each stage of life, day by day building new stories for the future. The story does not end here. The lives of Tusan, Toan, and Trang will certainly continue to unfold with many more developments ahead. Each upcoming episode will reveal new perspectives, new challenges, and also warm moments of family affection. Please continue following the next episodes on my channel to see how the story will develop in the future. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to support the channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing so that more people can follow the next journey of these characters.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người câu chuyện của Tiểu San. Thì ở bên mình thì mới Tết âm lịch xong, bởi vì Tết âm lịch nó hơi bị trễ một tí nên là mấy cái hoạt động nó cũng kéo ra hơi muộn, nên bữa nay kể cả video của kênh Tiểu San hay video kênh của mình thì đều lên khá là chậm, do cái tháng đầu tiên thì thường sẽ là nghỉ ngơi. Thì cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều vì đã theo dõi video. Bữa nay kênh của mình thì đang gặp phải tình trạng là lượt xem khá là thấp. Mình hy vọng là sẽ có thể ổn định hơn và có được nhiều lượt xem của mọi người hơn. Bây giờ thì mình đang hoàn thành các bước cuối cùng và tí nữa mình sẽ đăng tải video. Video này thì mình sẽ đăng tải vào lúc 7 giờ sáng mai. Cảm ơn mọi người, hẹn gặp lại mọi người video sau nhé.